Hello.
Hi. I was like, I don't know. I was like, take the necklace off. It's too much.
No, the necklace is great.
I was like, I can see it. Like,
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm good. Are you at home or?
No, I'm actually, I'm in our clubhouse, conference center, whatever we have here. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I left out of my house. Am I too close or too far? How's my lighting?
no, I think you're good.
Okay. And I can change. I was trying to keep the glare off of. I like that background back there, your office. That matches my house. Just kind of hand in hand for a few weeks, like I think 6 weeks, and just kind of created this vision of 1EXP. And Glenn likes to master map. If you guys, I'm a mind master. What is it called? Let's redo that one. Glenn likes to mind map things. And if you know how he works, and he just started this mind map, and that's how we started the 1EXP Diversity Inclusion Initiative. And so there are very specific initiatives for it started out with NAR protected classes under National Association of Realtors, who are agents who are, like we talked about, who are specific protected classes that have historically and currently being underrepresented or discriminated against in the real estate industry. So that includes, 8 different classes of GLBTQ community: Blacks, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans, seniors, physically challenged, women. So, there's all kinds of groups that we have. And then we've, extended it to a few other groups as well.
Right. Tell me how the agents embraced it within the EXP family.
For 1EXP has been great. I mean, overall, everybody's been like, they love it, right? And then there's also, we have some naysayers like, well, we're all real estate agents. Why don't we just keep it about real estate? Well, that's true. It is, we are all under one company, and it is one real estate company. However, different agents have different experiences. Just because you're not experiencing, or your clients aren't experiencing racial discrimination or redlining, doesn't mean that, that it's not existing. And so we have had some of that in the company. Yeah. But like you said, the company's made a stance that's very clear about where they stand with regard to zero tolerance for racial discrimination or any discrimination for any group at all, period.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What's the specific makeup of if the number of agents in the country, and then the number of African American agents in the country?
Sure. Right now, there are about 1.8 million agents. I mean, it fluctuates, right, between 1.5 to 1.8, to 2.0, 2.0 million. But right now, I think there were about 1.8 million, and the numbers are saying that we have about 7% African American agents. So that makes us somewhere between 105 to 108,000 African American agents around the country. Unfortunately, only 39% of us are full time.
Okay.
61, 51% of us are still, dual career, or I call it being hobbyists. Yeah.
Right. That sort of part-time thing. You mentioned the redlining issue that's been sort of historically noted and documented. What other areas do you think that we need to tackle currently to move the ball forward to make real estate? Let's face it, the generational wealth is built through real estate more than any other function. And so when you look at the numbers of disparity between the wealth gap, if you will, it begins and almost ends with real estate. And the laws that were there that prevented people from buying houses was something that, my parents, for example, bought their house in 1969. And it's no coincidence that it was a year after the civil rights laws that came in 68, the fair housing laws. And so, those things are still having lingering effects. But what do you think are obstacles today that we should be addressing to move things forward?
Well, and good question. Thank you for asking that question. It starts from the top down. So let's start from our national leadership, right? If everybody is used to doing business with another. So, if you're a white, male, and you're bringing your buddy in, I mean, that's who you're doing business with, then you're bringing in other like-minded people, right? People just do business with each other. So it starts with leadership. So it starts with, and I'm talking about representation. I hate that, tokenism, right? I'm just talking about representation. So
Right.
having people with diverse ideas, ideologies, women, we're 50% of the population, and just having just missing that just that part of the equation. So it starts with having people with diverse backgrounds, ideologies, sex, gender, and races sitting at the table. So you got to have a seat at the table. So it starts there. The second part is education, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's learn and have open, dialogue with each other, conversations, and then educating people about this is what happened historically, this is how it impacted, and this is how it still happened, and this is how it's still impacting people today. And then start putting policies in place to change those laws and change the way that people do business with one another. And then last but not least, and this is the one that I think about, is we need to get more people of color. So it's diversity is a two-way street. We need to get more people, women of color, particularly Black people, into the industry. We only make up 5 to 7% of the industry. So let's open up, let's go to our colleges and universities and say, hey, let's make real estate, being a real estate agent, a first career instead of a third career. Let's talk about being appraisers, because this is where the other part about that affects us. I've never seen a Black appraiser. And so what happens with appraisers, they leave their office. Well, they used to leave their office. They leave their office, they go left, and they're going down 123 Main Street. And the same house that was built in, like you said, in 2000, they're appraising that house at 200,000. And then they go right out of their office on Martin Luther King Street, same house, same builder, same year in 2000.
Right.
And they're appraising that house at 150. That's the problem, right? Same thing with our lenders who don't look like us, and they don't understand and culture and how we work, how we use our money in our cultures. With Middle Eastern cultures, the Hispanic community, they don't. In Black folks, we don't historically always put our money in banks or use it in certain ways. And how we get, how we have the money to pay mortgages. We have 1.7 million millennials who make over 100K a year, who are credit worthy and ready to buy homes, but they're kind of like, no, because we've not, talked to them about wealth and filling, the wealth gap, and how home ownership equivocates to equity and long-term wealth, and how to use that. So that's the long answer.
I like that. Those are things that I think that, like you said, they've been talked about for a very long time, but to begin to educate people at a young age about that. I also really like the part about the number of real estate agents, or African-American real estate agents. I think that the population as a whole is somewhere between 12 and 14%. So certainly a real estate career where, in California, you have to take 3 courses and an exam, multiple choice exam, where you can get 70%. Certainly the population of real estate agents should at least reflect the population growth as a whole. So to move that forward, I think is a very good idea.
Yeah, think about it. We have a concentration we make up about 30 to 35% of the population for being a certified nursing assistant. Well, go and get your real estate license, less training, and have the opportunity to make way more money than being a nursing assistant, right? Yeah. Or being, or even like with a truck driver. Yes, you can make money as a truck driver, but that industry is going away. So why not go into, housing? That people are always going to need a place to live and have a roof over their head. So why not take that, instead of doing that truck driving license, let's get a new skill and learn how to do that, or a trade. And we used to do concrete. If you want to be in the business, concrete, electricity, home building, repairs. That's where we're always going to need people in the industry, in the real estate industry.
Absolutely. Well, Fee, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, I really enjoy everything that you've added. I hope we can get together and speak again. This is a very fluid situation that we're dealing with, and I'm happy to have a relationship with you and with EXP and the efforts that you're taking to push things forward. I'd like to close by paying tribute to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who unfortunately passed away last week. There are a number of quotes of hers that are being posted. One of the ones I really love, she said that if you're in neutral in situations of injustice, then you have chosen to side with the oppressor. And so I think everyone needs to take their cue from that and do their part to help the country move forward towards its efforts in ensuring quality for all. So thank you very much, Fee. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us on Conversations on Race and Real Estate. We look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Stephon Carradine. As the country continues its constitutional and moral responsibility to ensure equality for all, an ongoing and open dialogue on race and racism and all things prejudice are essential to that pursuit. This is a forum where the subjects of race and real estate converge. Conversations on race and real estate will highlight and give voice to the experiences, thoughts, and ideas on how we can all do our part to inch the country closer in its efforts to ensure equality for all. Today, we're joined by Fee Gentry. Fee is an agent with eXp Realty in Texas. She is the co-chair and one of the original founders of One eXp, eXp's initiative for diversity and inclusion. She has more than 15 years of experience in the real estate industry, including being named the top local agent in her first year. She also started several businesses in the rehab, fitness, and sports training industry. She has a master's from Our Lady of Lake University in San Antonio, where she focused on entrepreneurship and marketing. In addition, earlier this year, Fee was appointed to the eXp World Holdings Board of Directors. Currently, I believe she is just one of 2 Black professionals who serve on boards of publicly traded real estate organizations. Fee, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Stephon, for that great introduction. I'm glad to be on the show. So let's get after it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. To begin, tell us about how you got into the real estate business. What was your journey to becoming an agent?
Oh gosh, it was a long journey. Like it was not a direct journey whatsoever. Like you kind of mentioned in my background, my plan was to be a sports medicine therapist and own a sports medicine facility. I actually was a pre-physical therapy major in school, went to Long Beach State initially, graduated from VCU. Yeah.
All right.
And then went on to get my master's in business and entrepreneurship and marketing and that's where my focus has been. So most of my background is in rehab and sports medicine. And then the last couple of years while I was in PT school, I just, literally burned out from just working and just had a family on the July. I'll never get that. They said, "Hey, enough is enough." And my mom said, "You just need to go rest." And we were in, she was in Harker Heights, Texas. She had bought some, land sight unseen and was building a house. And she's like, "I need to go check on my house." And I'm like, "Okay." So went up there and they, the real estate agent wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And the builder wasn't doing what he's supposed to do on the house. And so I met the commissioner of the Texas Real Estate Commission, and she, Avis Wukash, said, "I think you'd have a great career in real estate." And another gentleman said, "Yeah, I think you'd be really good." And I'm like, "I go to school for real estate." And so long story short, I was burned out and I was sitting on the couch for, 3 months and was bored. And I went and got my real estate license. And like I said, I started in the industry, did not know the difference at all between a lockbox and a listing, and sold 39 homes in my first year and went on from there, and considered to go grow my career. Yeah.
Well, terrific. The industry is lucky to have you. Tell us, we obviously are going through a time, some might call it unprecedented. It's probably unprecedented because of the amount of media coverage that we can now put on everything. Technology has allowed us to be ubiquitous. We're everywhere all the time on every issue. But the murders of people like Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed in Georgia in February by 3 white men, not police officers, just 3 civilians. The killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and then Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. Tell me, how these events affected you personally?
Wow, that's a heavy question. Personally, it was, like you said, I was shocked but not surprised. It was devastating, and I think the one that got me the most, definitely like it did most everybody in the world, was the George Floyd murder. To watch in real time people stand around intervene, and then in the inhumanity of that murderous police officer who snuffed his life out in front of public daylight with no regard for his life, when this man was begging for his life. And that could have been, like I said, could have been my brother, my nephew, could have been my husband, it could have been anybody. And so that itself, it really kind of like shut me down initially. And then, like I said, you can't get you can't get weary in well doing. And so I took that energy and that anger and that rage that I had and used it for fuel to say, what do we need to do next? Right. So, how do we change laws? How do we impact our youth? How do we make it so that this never happens again? And so that's where I went, and I just went to work. Yeah.
Yes. That's good. I mean, I think that is really one of the changes that's taking place from previous generations. We are going to make real efforts, I think, to change laws. I'll never forget hearing a quote from or a comment from Thurgood Marshall, and he was talking about civil rights and the things that you need to get done. At the end of the day, it's about the laws. We're a nation of laws, and we have to do everything we can to make sure that the laws are fair and equitable for everyone. And so this program we're doing today is going to be it's recorded and it'll be posted at a later date. But today is September 24th, and just yesterday the grand jury in Kentucky decided not to bring any charges against the officers who killed Breonna Taylor. And for many African Americans, it was not a shock. It was not a surprise. It was sort of sadly anticipated. And so we're all dealing with these very emotional issues, and it's tough for everybody. What are your thoughts? How'd you feel about the protests that followed the George Floyd murder?
Yeah, I absolutely supported the protesters. I mean, I believe that it is one of our civil rights to protest with our government, right? Peacefully protest, right? Now, when it comes to the riots and the looting, I didn't agree with that, of tearing up people's properties, because it is tearing up our communities where services are rendered, whether it's a grocery store, that's where mama does her grocery shopping, or, that's where, the local guy, who gets his dry cleaning there so he can go to work and get his clothes dry cleaned. So that part I didn't agree with, the looting and the conflating of, the media conflating the two. And, that's the part that I had trouble with. But
yeah, that was frustrating for me as well, because those are two clearly distinct events carried out by distinct people, and it's you can argue that it's actually a symptom of systematic racism to be able to just combine those two things. Like, no, those things are unrelated. The people I am not affiliated with the people that are doing that. I'm affiliated with the people that are exercising their First Amendment rights. And I too am a fan of civil protest, and it is the First Amendment. I think it's important to note that they made it the first. How do you feel about the? I know for me there were a number of people that just had this fervent, passionate support for the police, and they came out with, I support the police and nothing else. There was no qualifying to it, and I know for me that was a little painful to watch. What were your thoughts?
Same thing. Like, I have police officers in my family. I was just at a wedding with, 4 of my cousins who were police officers, and they had the exact same thing. They're like, we're police officers. We're here to serve and protect, and even they're treated differently. And they wanted to, and like I said, they even are treated differently as police officers among law enforcement, among their white and black. There's a division between white and black police officers in this country right now. And so, like I said, some of my quote, like, friends were saying, well, if they would just comply, and if they would, the police have all authority. When you're stopped by the police, you need to, listen to everything they say, and you don't have any civil rights when the police have stopped you and all that stuff. And I'm like, come on now, and so, I was like, that's what happens when you have the weaponization and the militarization of the police, that they go outside the boundaries and scope of their laws and the responsibilities of police officers, right? So, and like, well, they were scared for their lives and all that. Not when you have 10 police officers, and guns pointed at somebody's head. I mean, come on now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other part was, especially when we have seen in instances where, that they felt like their lives were threatened, where we've seen their white counterparts who've cussed at the police, spit on them, threatened to kill them, and they, without incident, can bring them into custody and bring justice, and have them go before and receive equal justice before the law. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. That's my comment exactly. Is that not obeying the police is not the punishment for that is not death, right? Not obeying the police, the punishment is arrest. Right. You're not free to just shoot someone in the back like Jacob Blake, and whether he didn't obey the order or not is not the point. The idea is that you don't get to just kill someone because they didn't obey a police order, right? And it's fascinating to me that the police are often the most frightened group when they're encountering certain people, but they have the guns and the badges and like the team.
And the training.
And the training. It just, I just think it's just people reaching and grasping for a rationalization for something they absolutely know to be wrong. Absolutely. The real estate industry, the percentages of African Americans in the real estate business, it's not what it is in the population. You are the head of, or one of the co-founders and leads up this initiative for EXP. Tell us about that. How'd you come to lead that? What's the initiative all about?
Sure. One of the initiatives I lead up is One EXP, which is our diversity and inclusion initiative. We believe that every real estate agent has the right to be exactly who they are, be themselves authentically. We also believe that diversity and inclusion makes dollars and cents. It's data. It's not, it's not an ethical, it's not just an ethical and moral position. It's also a financial position that says when you have diversity, diverse minds, representation, not tokenism, women, people of color, GLBTQ, etc., that companies are more sustainable, they're more innovative, and then they're more successful and better corporate citizens to the greater society at large. And so that's what we believe. And so, yes, I head up that, and it started from, like, you want me to tell the story of how it came about?
Yeah, touch on that. You mentioned that when we talked a month or so ago. I'm interested.
Yeah. This story is wild. Really how so the founder of the Black EXP Network, which has about 2,000 plus members in it, and they're agents and allies. So it's, African American agents and allies who specifically either serve African American communities or in support, of us, of fair housing laws and want to see discrimination in the real estate industry end. And so really it came from Jason Gesing, who's our CEO, and it was the first time was, I think we were playing Top Golf, and then the second time we had a conversation was at a Christmas party, and Jason was, saying, you should start a group for African American agents. And I was like, Jason, we just had, an election. I don't know if that's a good idea. And Jason was like, no, there's specific things that are unique and experiences that are unique to African American agents that need to be addressed, and you all need to have a group to to have a network with each other, etc. So then here comes Julie Nelson at the same party, saying the exact same thing. She had just founded the GLBT community, and she's like, yeah, with the GLBT community, you just need to start a group within EXP. And so, hence, a few days later, I started that group. But like I said, I'm from California, and so I know that with civil rights, as a child of parents who were civil rights advocates,
yes.
that civil rights did not come without the help and the assistance of all people. There are not enough Black people in the United States to bring about the civil rights movement, and so I knew that we needed to have women and people of color and this utopic society. Like, I'm from California, so I knew that I grew up in this very multicultural, multi-ethnic, rich society, and I wanted EXP to have that. And so literally I chatted Glenn Sanford, our founder, at probably 1-2 o'clock in the morning, and chatted him, and he responded back and said, Fee, that was my Q2 goals. And he said, but I don't know how to do that. He knew that we needed an initiative. And so I was very fortunate to map. And we just, I don't know if you guys know how Glenn works, but we created this mind map. And we said, okay, here's the Black EXP network, and here's one EXP, here's EXP Latino, and all protected classes. And so we just started with with the protected classes of seniors, women, the GLBTQ community, the Jewish community. We just started with all these groups, and then we've expanded it, to our veterans and to other groups. And so that's how it started. And our initiatives are to serve our agents. Yeah. And the industry. We want to change the industry as well. Yeah. That's the other thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I know that it was right in the middle of the George Floyd protest, and I know Glenn Stafford, the founder and the chairman of EXP, was the first that I recognized a real estate company to make a public statement in support of the African American community. Certainly one of the first, and that was really encouraging. I know, or I certainly hope that, and if I ever get a chance to meet him, I'll express this to him, but how much that meant to me, just my individual personal feeling on seeing the head of my organization, I'm a broker associate for EXP in California, make that public statement. It really meant a lot, and I think, to everyone within the EXP family, it meant a lot. And Glenn is from Eastern Canada, right?
Yes, he is. Yes.
So I can imagine, being Canadian and then coming to the U.S., the acceptance, I think, that homegrown Americans have or tolerance even for racism, it would look sort of foreign to somebody that's not from the country.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've had conversations with Glenn about it. He came from, like you said, he came from Canada. So, and then he went to school at University of Oklahoma. So it was definitely a culture shock. And that's, he was an adult by the time he goes to, to school in Oklahoma to see that. So it just was, it's been foreign to him. And people like Jeff Whiteside and some of our other people who sit on the higher levels of our EXP leadership, Jason, same, all of them, Dave Kennard, all of them, same thing. It's just not acceptable for them as a culture.
That's wonderful. And to your point, watching the protests, one of the things, and my emotions have just sort of run the gamut. But at the end of the day, I'm hopeful. I'm reminded of Barack Obama's book, The Audacity of Hope, and my hope is really centered in the generations that are coming, after us. When I looked at the protest, going on in Southern California, at least half of the protesters were young white people, young white kids that had grew up in a world that they have Black friends, they have gay and lesbian and transgender friends, and so their tolerance for discrimination is just not going to be something that they're going to be quiet about, right? I'm confident that those young folks are going to get out there and make a difference. So I'm really looking forward to that. Tell me about the agents within the EXP family. How have they embraced the initiative, and how are they moving things forward?
Yeah, I mean, for the majority of our agents have embraced our OneXP culture of diversity and inclusion. And then, like anything else, we've had some resistance. I mean, and there's some agents who've done things to separate themselves from the company, but the company has made a decision, and has made a stance. We have no tolerance for discrimination at whatsoever, gender, sex, racial discrimination. It's zero tolerance. And so once they understand that and understand our community and our culture, then, like I said, we've had no problems with agents with that regard. They're very supportive of the OneXP movement. Yeah.
Well, good. We talked a month or so ago, and you mentioned something to me about the percentage of African American agents in the business, and something that we need to move forward to do to increase the population of agents, African American agents in the real estate business. Tell me more about that.
Sure. Out of the 1.8 million to 2 million, agents that we have in North America, United States, approximately, the numbers float between 6 to 7% are African American agents. So that means that we only have like between 100 to 105, thousand African American agents, and then out of those, 100,000 plus agents, only 39% of them are full time, and so. They have their dual career agents. And so with that being said, those numbers need to be improved. And so, like the BEN and 1EXP, we're working specifically on, specific campaigns to attract more African-American agents into the industry. We need to, reach out to colleges and universities so that it's not our first, that's not our last, option to be an agent, but maybe our first option to consider to become a real estate agent or someone in the real estate, profession. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. You and I really appreciate your time today. I know you have your plates like runneth over, and so I really appreciate you taking time to chat with us today. A couple of more things as we wrap up. The history of the country as it relates to inequality and real estate, there are a couple of things that stand out historically. Redlining, of course, is one of them. The use of CC&Rs to circumvent certain laws is another. Tell me about some things you think today that are standing in the way, obstacles that we can address and tackle, if you will, that will make homeownership a reality for more African Americans and more minorities.
Sure. It starts from the top down. So it's that top down model. And actually I almost want to flip it over like with EXP. It starts with us as the agents, and we make demands and say to our leadership from the top and flip it up and say, this business does not operate without agents. So it's like the EXP model. So, until we start demanding to the top saying, hey, we need more agents and people of color and diversity in the top ranks where the decisions are being made. So seats at the table of board of directors for these companies, leadership positions, more ownership opportunities, putting, like I said, investing dollars and cents into infrastructure in education for agents to learn higher skills, to enter in the industry as higher ranking professionals, as opposed to coming always bottom, the bottom end, because we always know that we have higher levels of education and college degrees, but we don't have opportunities because of the nepotism that has been in the industry. The other part is, like we talked about, I like to see appraisers, right? We have, so when we talked about the redlining, the discounting of our homes. So we have like Mr. Appraiser leaves his office and goes, left to Smith Street, and he, the same house built in, 2000 that was built by the same builder is appraised at, 200,000, and then he goes right to MLK Street and that house is appraised at 150. So it's doing that. It's talking, having relationships with lenders and saying culturally, how do we handle money and loans in our communities? The Muslim community handles money differently than the Hispanic community. Women are being redlined. Our senior citizens are being our senior citizens are being discriminated at high levels. So it's a top down and bottom up strategy that I think needs to be implemented, but more so, like we said, with inclusion and education. Huge. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
That's wonderful. I mean, I can see how all of those things can certainly have an impact, and they're actually areas that we can take action on, if you will. I think one of the things that's going to make a big difference is the younger generation, the NBA players, for example, and the impact that they're having with their initiative on voting. But there's going to be a real focus on tackling the laws. I'm reminded of Thurgood Marshall when he was making commentary on the civil rights movement, and he was essentially saying that that's all great, but at the end of the day, we have to get into the courts and we have to make the law something that works for everyone. And it's interesting because we're only looking for equality, right. not an advantage, right? Just the same rules, right? The same 100-yard football field or whatever the metaphor is or analogy we want to use. It's just about equality.
Well, now it's equality. Well, Thurgood Marshall just wanted us to have initially just be civil, right? That's what we initially wanted. Now we're saying, okay, we want equal, we want equality. So yes, we should have the equal laws. But here's the thing, we can also continue to put in laws, but unless we enact the laws and we can't legislate morality and ethics, that has to come from us having more dialogue and conversations. Diversity and inclusion is a two-way street. So
absolutely.
it is for us to continue to have conversations like this with our white brothers and sisters, our Indian brothers and sisters in the GLBT community. It's like I said, it's a bottom up, top down, all inclusive strategy. It's all hands on deck from any way and anywhere that we can get the help to move it forward. But we're
absolutely. Yes. Well, Fee, thank you so very much for joining us. Again, I know your time is very valuable and you're really busy. The insights you've provided, I think it's going to go a long way in helping people understand what EXP is doing, where you're coming from, and some ideas that we can all take and push the ball forward, if you will. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I am just honored to be here. Thank you, Stephon. Thank you for your vision and your commitment to fair housing equality and ending racism and discrimination in real estate. Highly important.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to close by quoting and paying tribute to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who passed away, who we lost a couple of days ago following her heroic battle against pancreatic cancer. Justice Ginsburg put it best when she said, "If you're neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen to side with the oppressor." And I think that's a great way to wrap up our show. Thank you again. Thank you, Fee, and thanks to you at home for watching. I look forward to talking to you again soon.